Good evening. We'll call to order the September 14th. Good evening. We'll call to order the September 14th Select Board meeting to order. There's no changes to the agenda that I know of. There'll be announcements.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, we have our first regular announcement. As we just heard, the meeting is being video and audio recorded. And next we have two special presentations that I guess we're going to do simultaneously. Maybe one person come down at a time, and then you can both be down here. And these are the recognitions of retiring police department employees, Detective Lieutenant Tom Klinger and Sheila Klinger, who has been, I don't know if office administrator is quite the right title for Sheila. It's more like person who does everything behind the scenes administrator. And they both have been stable, long-term, steady, reliable people in the police department for, I mean, we have over 60 years of service between these two for the town of Nantucket. Maybe that's too much maybe that's too big of a number. Well, I was just saying over 60 to capture, but I don't want to make them sound nice. Too old. But I just really want to say how much I appreciate you both and your contributions and service to the town. And we don't always get to say that to our employees or have the opportunity to on a daily basis, but it is really very much appreciated. So thank you both. I think the chief is going to say a few words, and then we're going to call you guys down. I guess you both just come down at the same time. And then we'll do a little presentation right in the front here.
Yeah, good evening. I wanted to just say I came here in 2004 and started as the police chief in Nantucket. And of course, coming from not from here, I wasn't familiar with anybody. But one of the first people I met was Sheila and Tom. And Tom was the union president at the time, and he made a point to come up to me and introduce himself and point out that he was the union president. And I thought, oh Lord, I'm going to have trouble here moving forward. But I can honestly say that between Tom and Sheila, they set the guardrails for the administration of this police department moving forward in the future. Tom worked his way up from, a sergeant, street sergeant when I got here, to detective sergeant, to detective lieutenant. He was very instrumental in solving some of the most heinous crimes that this community saw in the last 20 years. Sheila, she was she literally, I said a long time ago that if Sheila Klinger or Melinda Burns resigned from this department, we'd be in big trouble. And now we're finding out just how much trouble that is. She really was instrumental in keeping this department moving forward with our bookkeeping, our record keeping, and everything else. And she's a hard one to replace. But just as important are their daughters. I think some of them are sitting in the back of the room. They were mentors to the other police officers, including my children in this community. I credit a lot of the good things my kids have done to their being good mentors to them. And Tom and Sheila literally were the guide light for many of the young police officers who come out of this department. So I can't say enough about them. We're going to miss them. I wish them well in their retirement, and I know they're going to be around to continue to contribute in any way that they can. So Tom and Sheila, if you guys would come up, appreciate it.
Yeah. 37 years of service.
Thank you. Thank you.
37 years of service.
So next, under announcements, review of applications for appointments to the short-term rental work group, Agricultural Commission, Finance Committee, Tree Advisory. And is one of you going to read the names, or?
Sure. Brooke can do it today. Give Erica a break.
Brooke's going to do it? Okay, yeah, perfect.
I just sorry it's gonna take me.
No, you're fine.
It's so big.
It's on page 7.
Okay, the applicants for the short-term rental work group are Kathy Baird, nominated by Nantucket Together, Curtis Barnes, Gary Beller, nominated by the non-voting taxpayers, Sue Brandt, Abigail Camp, Wendy Conway Schmidt, Ernie Culkins, Jonathan Delano, Tom Dixon as the Affordable Housing Advocate nominee, Rebecca Duhame, Jerry Ferguson, Lynn Filipsky, William Gardner by the non-voting taxpayers, Keith Goldstein, Carol Greenberg, JP Hernandez, Peter Hoey, Peter Kahn, non-voting taxpayers, John Kitchener, Robert Levy, Andy Lowell, Bruce Mandel, Edward Mills, Harry Mueller, Leo Mullen, Chip Newton, Robin Nides from Nantucket Together, Jeffrey Parker, Matthew Peel, Sam Pierpont, Joe Plandowski, Sharon Quigley, Georgia Raceman, Grant Sanders, Damian Scheibel, nominated by Nantucket Together, Eric Silfen, Jim Salzer, Catherine Ward, Linda Williams, Patsy Wright, and Karen Zagaiko. Okay, and then the nominees for the other? What page is that, Erica?
That is on page 128.
Thank you.
Erica, you had said there's other applications coming in to us.
Correct. Act Now and the Finance Committee both put forth names. I got those in the last day, so I'll be forwarding those to the group.
Okay.
Great. And then for the Finance Committee, there's one vacant position and 3 applicants, Jeremy Bloomer, Walter Flaherty, and Joseph Wright. For the Tree Advisory Committee, there are 2 open seats and no applicants. And is that it? Oh, and the Agricultural Commission, 2 vacant seats and no applicants. So I would encourage the public to consider applying for these open seats that don't have applicants yet, because there will be another round of nominations and appointments.
Thank you, Brooke. The other part of this announcement is that the applicant introduction, where the applicants will have an opportunity to introduce themselves, and appointments to these groups, well, not the ones that don't have applicants, but the others, is scheduled for next Wednesday, September 21st, pursuant to the board's committee appointment policy. We were talking a little bit earlier in the meeting. Do we want to just mention about the short-term rental work group appointments? That is happening. When is that happening?
So the short-term rental appointment group, which consists of Matt, the 3 of us,
Yep.
plus Dave Iverson and Denise Cronow, are going to have a meeting on Tuesday, a publicly posted and accessible meeting on next Tuesday at 4 p.m. And the purpose of that meeting is just to ensure we've never had this many applicants, and we want to review the process by which we will review and vote on those applications that will happen the next day at the select board meeting with those other two members of the appointment authorizing committee present to do the actual voting. So we're going to work out the process on Tuesday and make sure it's clear for the public before we start that process on Wednesday. And then all the applicants will have 2 minutes each to present their qualifications or their reasons for applying on Wednesday, the 21st, prior to the actual appointment voting happening. I hope that made sense.
Yes, so the appointments are occurring on Wednesday, the 21st, at the regular board meeting. However, there's a pre-process, sort of a screening, like, I don't know if screening is the right word.
I think it's for those of us on the select board who've done appointments, we've never had 41. So the actual voting process, we just wanted to think through how it's going to go in terms of with that many nominations and what the possible ramifications are, and just have a clear system so that when we do it, people understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we'll sort that out on Tuesday and then announce that process on Wednesday before we start that process.
That is clear to me, anyway.
Yeah, I think for this to work, it needs to be a balanced committee, and it needs to be balanced and needs to be perceived as being balanced. And so I think we have to make sure when we're doing it that we achieve that goal.
Yes.
And I think it's very difficult when I look at the 41 names. There's a lot that are similar. There are a lot that overlap. And so for us to get 9 and have a balance of views on the island, I think we have to actually be willing to talk about it and really kind of see what is it we're trying to, what are the aspects that we're trying to make sure are represented so that this is a successful group. And I worry that if it becomes which I don't think it will, but if we're not careful and we have sort of, and don't make it balanced, then I think, we won't be successful. So I think this is a good starting step to be able to try to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. And it's a publicly noticed meeting and the public can attend on Tuesday at 4.
Thank you very much. That is very helpful. Sewer Director David Gray is here to give us an update on the third sewer force main project. And as he's coming up, I just want to mention that this project has been under review, planning, funding, consideration for 4 years now. Since the sewer break of January 4th, 2018. I know we don't like to say that date. That is when this all kind of started. And the funding has been approved at town meeting. We've had several presentations before the board as to what this project will entail. And as I think we've said every time, it is going to be a very disruptive project. And we are trying our best to get outreach out ahead of time and address concerns along the way, but people are really going to have to use their patience during this project, which is not going to be short. David?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. David Gray, Sewer Director. The flyer up on the screen was also mailed out to parties in the area. We're trying to take and focus specifically on Step, C Street, Center, and Lily, and this initial meeting that we're going to have at the Congregational Church tomorrow night at 5:30. We had an on-site meeting last Thursday where we met. We had a whole group of engineers from the designer, the OPM. We had multiple people for structural engineers. We went through a couple of homes, talked to a lot of the residents on Step Lane, and people have concerns with their older homes and their older foundations. The contractor does have an insurance company coming down in the next week or so to actually go through a lot of the homes that are right on the edge of the road to do video and still photography of the entire home to make sure that we have a pre-construction We'll have one during the construction and at the end of the construction to see if there's any settling or cracking or whatever like that. We have installed some vibration sensors along step lane already. They look like a little suitcase with a solar panel on them, and they have a probe that goes into the ground. So tomorrow night's meeting up at the church, hopefully will be well attended. We went door to door again with these flyers the other day and handed them out door to door. So we've done as much as we can for now, besides these meetings and phone calls that we've received. So I think we've gotten the word out best we can. Today, the first load of gravel showed up down at Jetty's Beach in the upper parking lot, has a bunch of structures already. So they're anticipating breaking ground on the 19th, pending weather and everything and set up. If not, it'll be the 26th. So we still have another week or so just in planning and getting along with all the different residents in the area. So, and it was awfully nice for the church to take and allow us to use their room up there. So, and we're going to host it it's either going to be Zoom or Teams, so we will be able to record it and be able to put it up on the website for the meeting. So, yeah, it will be live. We'll have it live, but it's also going to be recorded. So, other than that, if there's any questions, you're going to start to see a lot of stuff get mobilized here pretty quick. They've already started doing work out on South Shore. It's going to be a challenging project, very disruptive, but some of those streets are as wide as the machine. So they've done some pretty interesting planning to do the excavation by using a mobile conveyor belt that actually will be able to drive in front of the excavator and dump it up into a dump truck, so they don't have to swing around and move around. So it's going to be challenging. And Erica said she would take all the phone calls for the complaints. So
I do want to note that parking is going to be pretty severely impacted downtown in the work area. Not only the streets that the work is being done on, but they also need to block parking at the ends of the streets to allow the trucks and machinery and equipment to go in and out of the streets. So just be forewarned that parking is going to be at a premium north of Broad for a while.
we ordered a bunch of signs to assist with that. Ray says construction zone. We got a bunch of tape coming that says construction and no parking. So, well, let's see. I think it's going to go well, but it's going to be challenging. So.
David, there's a webpage for this that will have like parking ban updates and schedule updates.
There is. We do have a website page for the project specific. The engineer and the boots on the ground folks will take and be giving Erica a 3-week look ahead every by Thursday afternoon. So we'll at least be able to keep everything rolling along and going. Some of these streets are going to be blocked off for the entire time they're going to be on the roadway. We'll be able to allow residents back into their yards. In some areas we won't be able to just for a couple of days, but step lane's going to be challenging because of the grade. Lily Street's going to be another challenging one because it's just so skinny, and sidewalks are going to be torn up and drainage and everything. So we'll be here. It'll be
We've been usually very proactive about our web pages for our construction projects. The engineers usually send the information to me to send out to my truckers work group that I do every Friday, and then Florencia uploads everything for the coming weeks on the website, usually on Fridays also. So we try to keep it as current as possible.
Sounds like we're off to a good start.
Yeah, any further questions, we're available. We are going to have engineers on the ground the whole time. We're going to have some of our staff on site as well during the day, during the construction. So
I'd just like to express my appreciation for the level of communication and the willingness to meet with people and talk with them about their concerns. I think that some people I know who've been very concerned are feeling better, still worried, but better informed.
Very good meeting with a couple of the residents on Step Lane, and one of the residents had a friend from Europe somewhere, And he said he couldn't believe the amount of that we were actually down there meeting with people and talking with them. He said where he's from, they would have just dug up the road, gone through, and never said anything to anybody. So I told him that everyone knows where I live, so I couldn't do that. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, any select board announcements or comments to start off? I just have one thing. I finally got a tour of our house, and I was really impressed with two things. One, the setup and what it's going to be able to do for the youth, having access to that. But walking through, every 5 seconds was, oh, Nantucket Inn donated this. Oh, this entity donated this. It must have been 30 or 40 different entities and people coming together to make that work. And obviously some other really big items. And I'm just really impressed of how collaborative it was to make it happen. I'm a little late to getting a tour, but I was very impressed. And I walked out and said, well, I'm bringing this up as select board comments. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to share a little story. I was pulling out of Tacoma Way the other day, which I do every day, and the trees had grown out and I couldn't see down Fairgrounds Road. And I put in a DPW work order, and the process was so easy. I got a confirmation, immediate email confirmation, and a confirmation that the work order had been scheduled, and it was done in 48 hours. And I just wanted to say to the community that if you have DPW projects or things that you would like to get done to exercise, use that online form. It really worked. So.
Thank you, Brooke. Okay, there's no follow-up comments from prior select board meetings. Is there any public comment here tonight that's not on the agenda? Please raise your digital hand if you're online.
Did someone?
Diane, I saw your hand go up and it came back down. And we know you want to speak tonight. Just so everybody knows, Diane wanted to speak last week during the HGC, but we didn't see her hand come back up. And I think she thought that their hand was up, and there was just a tech problem there. So can you bring her in if she doesn't bring her hand on?
There. Do you have me?
Yes, we can hear you. Sorry about last week, Diane.
No, that's all right. I am not too well done on webinar. So I think I didn't press that live button. I think I just left it on record. So I was probably the one to do it. And anyway, what I wanted to say, or what I wanted to ask you guys, is the HCC appreciates very much getting the sign advisory committee back in motion. We are acting as if it is just going on, not changing anything, which I think you all agreed to. The other thing that we would like to know is if you cannot, you did this for the health department and remove them from plus. Could you do that for the HTC, or do we have to go more professionally and get it done? Can the select board or Libby take us out from underneath and we would go on? And we have a lot of information that would answer your questions, which we would be delighted to discuss with you, which would be a good idea. And one of the things, well, it would go into, we would go this discussion, is to say that we would like the ability to appoint our people to the different advisory boards. Number one. Number two, to tell you that the advisory boards are very important to us. I don't know, last night, I think we had 198 applications. We got through, I don't know, 36. And the point I also want to make is that the advisory commissions are just that. They are advice. We never just okay whatever they said. It is always reviewed again. They are advice to give us what they think. Different people on the board look at things differently, just as way as the 5 people on the HTC look at things differently. But the impression has been given that we just accept whatever the advisory boards say, and that's it. That is not true. We review them all, including the sign advisory committee, and they would be a big help. And I again ask Libby if she can reinstate those advisory boards without having to wait to next year at the town meeting to do it. That gives us 9 months without the backup help that we have, and the amount of building that's going on is not reducing in any way. And so that is another thing I'm asking for. And the other thing that I just want to say, because I don't understand what happened. I received a letter. It was emailed to me saying that it was addressed to Andrew Vorse with a high importance. And it said, as of March 14th, I was attending the advisory board meetings and making statements and making thoughts about them. So when I came to the HTC meeting, I had preconceived ideas. This was mailed out to Andrew on the 14th of March, this past year, 2022. And we were given the impression, whenever it was a month ago, that the advisory committees were removed quickly because of the sign advisory committee and Esmeralda took away an appointment that we made. It's crazy. I have never been on YouTube. Never. On March 14th, I was not on YouTube. And when you're on YouTube, it is my feeling that you can't talk. You can hear, but you can't talk. So I don't know why a letter like that was sent from the administrator of the HDC to the head of Plus, not seeing anybody, not seeing Ray Pohl or anybody else. And if somebody has a complaint to make about me, all they have to do is call. But to accuse me of doing something that was against the law, which I was told by a person, it isn't against the law. I didn't add in, I might have answered a question. I didn't make comments on anything. I was there to learn because, as Val Oliver said, do your homework. And I was doing my homework to see what the atmosphere is like in Sconset, because I know what the houses look like in Sconset. I know where they belong here and there, but to know how the neighborhood feels and what that is going on is very important. The same with downtown in the old historic district. I live in the old historic district. I'm interested. There's things that come up, and I've lived here for 52 years that I don't know the answer to. I got 5 very intelligent people who are discussing something, and you learn a lot. And that's what I, as a historic district commissioner, feel it's important to learn, not to sit there with closed brains, because I knew this 10 years ago. And the same goes for Nantucket. Nantucket is a very different atmosphere from either town or Wisconsin. So that's why I attended that meeting. Linda Williams told me I was against the law. It was against the law for me to be there. I think we have to back off from all this accusatory stuff. We're a commission that works for the town. We work for you, but you guys work for us too. So I would like to see some help from what you can do to restore what we had as a thing. Hold on, I'm sorry. I would like to see if we can't work together, get it back on track, and go forward with letting you know what we think and how we would like to see some of the rules, and we would like to know what you can do with us and for us. I don't think we need a work group study. We all know what each board does. I've been on both of them and I know what they do, although your work's gone 40 times heavier than when I was there. But that's what I would like to see. I would like to ask Libby if she would give the HTC that comes to us, because sometimes things go back and forth and we don't get them. So that's
Diane, we'll have the town manager will get back to you on some of those questions. We wrote them all down, and we'll get back to you on that.
Do you think that's asking too much, or do you think we can do this?
Well, in public comment, we don't really discuss anything. It's not on the agenda.
Okay.
But
All right.
we can get back to you. And
Please. Thank you.
Diane, real quick, it's Matt. But
Yeah.
our motion last week, Diane, though, was to ask your input on those other commissions. And so if your board would like to provide that input to staff, that would be helpful. And, if you gave it in a letter explaining why, that could help us decide what to do.
Okay, great.
thank you, Diane.
I will do that. Thank you very much.
Erica, do you have something?
I was just gonna make
Clarify.
some comments, but we'll wait.
Okay.
You've got one more person with
Yep.
their hand raised.
You go to Rick.
Jason, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Rick.
I'd just like to say, as a reasonably close observer of all of these activities in our historical preservation efforts, I think Diane made a very sort of cogent comment. And I personally would encourage the select board to take it seriously. And I think her requests were reasonable, and hope you will act positively on them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Any other comment tonight? Not on the agenda?
Diane has her hand raised again.
Yeah, I think we're.
Are you done with it?
Yeah, I think that was enough. We can get back to her and continue it.
So I'm gonna lower Diane's hand for now.
Yep.
Since she already spoke.
Okay, so no further. Diane, your hand keeps going up. We usually only have public comment one time from a person. Was there something you missed? Trying to give her the benefit of the doubt because she didn't get to speak last week. That's why I was letting it go longer. Yeah, I think we're okay.
I think this is like me doing technology. It's like trying to figure out how to do it.
Okay, moving on. There's no new business I know of. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes for September 7th?
Sorry, I don't have those ready. You'll have those next week.
Okay, so approval of treasury warrants for September 14th.
So moved.
All those in favor by roll call? Brooke?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Don? Don? Okay, Jason, aye. So that passes 3-0. Town managers report.
I just have two quick things that are not listed on the agenda because they came in a little bit late. I've communicated with you all by email on this, but I haven't totally resolved it yet. Some time ago, several months ago, there was a joint select board meeting with various members of select boards on Martha's Vineyard about some steamship legislation. And one of the outcomes of that discussion was, wouldn't it be great to have a joint meeting in the fall? So I started communicating with the managers over there a couple of weeks ago about getting a meeting scheduled in the fall. And it's been a little tricky because, there are 6 towns over there and they all meet at different times. So it's been kind of hard to land on a date. So I was talking to Brooke about this yesterday and she had a great suggestion, which was perhaps each board, including the Nantucket board, could designate one person and we could have a meeting that way. So I floated that idea today with the vineyard managers. And as it turns out, as I found out today, one of them is ready to have all of their board, they just have 3 members on the board, to attend a meeting. And a couple others were going to find out within the next week or so. So I said, okay, fine. We'll just go ahead and schedule it. And whoever shows up, shows up. And we'll probably sponsor it on our Zoom account. And the time that we're looking at, and it wouldn't need to be live, Erica. The time that we're looking at is Tuesday, October 18th at 4. And again, if we could at least have 1 or 2 Nantucket Select Board members there, that would be great. The topics that I've thrown out there for potential discussion include short-term rentals, summer issues, wind farms, and other things such as, hold on a second, quality of life concerns, traffic, noise, beach crowds, trash, sharks, municipal resources, coastal resiliency. And in fact, there was an article not too long ago, I think in the Martha's Vineyard Gazette or Martha's Vineyard Times, something like that, about very similar issues that had appeared here in various venues. So everybody's on the sort of the same page about these various topics. So whoever would like to attend, just please let me know and we can get the things set up. So I just want to mention that.
Are we looking just for 1 or 2, or can everybody show up for select board if they want to?
It's up to you all.
It's whatever. Okay.
It's whatever. If I have 1 or 2 definites, that would be good so that I'm not showing up with nobody.
Okay.
I can be there for an hour.
Okay, that sounds great. Secondly, I just wanted to give you a quick update because I get asked every now and then about what's going on with the Our Island Home and Senior Center projects. And I recently am starting to sort of establish just an internal administrative work group to help provide feedback, outreach, information, and also help with updates to various stakeholders, groups, and organizations as these projects move along. The projects are linked in many ways in terms of potential activities and programs and other issues. So I've got several people from different stakeholder groups, and we're hoping to get a meeting going in the next couple of weeks to kind of formulate what sort of programs and activities we want to see at both facilities. And again, there's some overlap there. And then we are going to proceed to procure the necessary owner's project manager for 1 or both of the projects. We don't have full construction money for either project yet. We have design funds for Our Island Home and a feasibility study for the senior center, which was intended to look at the current Our Island Home facility and determine what would be best in terms of having the senior center there, a renovation or a demo and redo or whatever. And I'm sort of mostly hearing from people that a demo and a redo is probably ultimately in the long run going to be more effective and perhaps less costly, but that's something that we're going to be talking about. So I just want to give you an update about that. And that was it.
Thank you, Libby. On the select board reports and comments, first up is the sewer fee waiver policy discussion. And Tucker, are you walking us through this?
Sure. Thank you, Tucker Holland, Housing Director. And we have all kinds of time. So as the board knows, from time to time, it has revised its sewer policy. And there are a few requests that have come to light in recent times that might suggest taking a look at the policy and making some revisions is a worthwhile exercise. We're not expecting to arrive at any decision tonight, but it just would be helpful to get some further input from the board as we try to craft any potential modifications to the policy. one of the requests comes from Housing Nantucket, and Ann Cuspa is here and can speak to this a bit more. They're looking at introducing some product at a new level for them at the 175% AMI, 3 ownership homes. And presently within the policy, there is no provision for the board to waive fees at that level. And so given particularly that this is a nonprofit that is focused on developing housing for year-round use, and there is need at this level, we think that it may be appropriate for the board to consider waiving the fees in an instance like this. One consideration for the board would be whether it would apply to all restricted units at the 175 level. There are other units that are out there or pending that would potentially be impacted that are part of for-profit enterprises. So that is a consideration that you would need to take into account. There are half a dozen 175 units within the Richmond Sandpiper 1 and 2 development, and so principally that's what we would be talking about. But there could be others in the future. And a second subject for discussion is, and this was before the board, I think back in January initially, this is a bit of an ongoing discussion. I think Dave Arminetti may be on your video screen with respect to Richmond's request around the fees, sewer fees, in conjunction with projects that were permitted prior to the adoption of the new sewer regulations in 2020. And in that case, they initially had requested that the board take a look at both the home ownership and the rental components of a project such as theirs. I think they have subsequently, based on the feedback from the board in January, turned away from their focus on the ownership side of things, but are interested in the possibility of having these quote unquote grandfathered fees apply with regard to the rental project. And I think we had explored together back in January the fact that units are contributing to the shy list, that they are contributing to a period of safe harbor, that they are year-round exclusive in nature, that they're not available for short-term rental. And an additional point may be that they are part of a development where there is investment in the sewer system itself by the developer that not only would benefit the project, but other, call it neighbors to the project. So there would be, in effect, a community benefit in that regard. And so those are some of the considerations that might be taken into account in looking at a revision to the policy that would address that particular item. That's a much more significant item. And David Gray is here. Again, I mentioned David Arminetti's on the line. They can get a bit more into the numbers of how, what that financially might look like. But it may merit some consideration given the dramatic change in costs since the time that some of these projects started. It also would be relatively narrow in terms of projects that might fall under eligibility if those criteria I mentioned were to be part of what was adopted. The third change that I think if we were making modifications to the policy, the third one might be just to clarify something that I think has largely been understood and certainly has been practiced in all instances, to my knowledge, is that we state in the policy now that the developer shall cooperate fully with the town in obtaining SHI status for the eligible unit or units by timely providing all required documentation and so forth. I think we may want to just add in there that they will also collaborate in ensuring that local preference is a part of that process. So those are the three items. And I would invite Ann and Dave to also comment on their particular aspects.
Any questions for Tucker? Not yet? Okay. Go ahead, Ann.
Good evening, Ann Cuspa from Housing Nantucket. Thank you, Tucker, for that introduction. I submit a letter requesting a waiver. Unbeknownst to me, the 175 level for homeownership wasn't included in the policy. So the way that I was familiar with the policy, because I know how much it helps specifically covenant homeowners, the 150% AMI and below, this waiver of the sewer connection fees makes a huge difference to them. And Housing Nantucket now is going to be getting into developing and building affordable units for sale, which we've never done that before. And it's through this swap with the Richmond company that the town has been facilitating for us and overseeing. But that finally happened. And now that we have these 3 lots on Honeysuckle Drive, we would like to request that there is a waiver of those fees. We're trying to look at the long-term costs for these homeowners. So even though we're the developer of the project, we would like to do things like put cedar trim on the doors and windows instead of painted trim, because we as rental property owners know that that painting can be quite an expense over the long term of the facility. So for the homeowner, being able to have cedar trim will save them over the long term. But for us as a developer, if we can squeeze some money from, say, not paying sewer connection fees, then we can put that into making the units a bit nicer, upgrading some of the countertops, things like that, so that they, these aren't cheap, these 175% AMI units. So we want to make sure that the value that the buyer is getting, you can see it in the finish for the home. So that's where we're coming from in making this request. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Brooke?
That's interesting, and it sounds like some of what you'd be able to do is put materials in that are more durable for the long term. So the cost of ownership and maintenance in the long run for the owner. So
And
I hadn't really thought about that.
The look of it too, because I know once our paint starts chipping, it kind of brings down the rest of the neighborhood in a way too, and it makes affordable housing look bad. So we're just trying to think about it in a more comprehensive way.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Ann.
I want to hear from David.
I don't see any hands up.
Yeah, I don't know if is Dave
He's there in
on?
his attendee, but I don't see any hands up.
Oh, okay. Maybe he's just waiting. I don't know if David Gray has anything to add at this point. No.
I was just going to say, oh, Dave does have his hand up.
Oh, there it is.
He was going to be listening tonight, but he wants his hand up. Dave, you're on.
Oh, great. Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, staff. Dave Arminetti, Director of Real Estate Development for Richmond. Just a couple of quick points. I think this larger discussion, as Tucker pointed out, is going to continue. We had a very productive Zoom meeting today with some of the senior staff that will continue to inform this discussion, hopefully, and we can come back to your board in the near term with what we hope is a consensus recommendation for your consideration on for the remainder of the Meadows project. And we appreciate the board continuing to participate in that, including since our January meeting. Just one point I'd make on the 175% AMI homes, even though it specifically doesn't involve us. I mean, we, in essence, have been collaborating with Housing Nantucket here, as the board's aware and the staff's aware, through this land exchange, and they are part of our neighborhood and part of our Sandpiper subdivision. I think the board and the staff are familiar and knowledgeable of this, but you know, we do have a real neighborhood now that's coming out of the ground, and to the board's credit, to the planning board's credit, to the HDC's credit, to all the staff's credit, to all the public who have helped us, you know, it's turning into the kind of neighborhood that we all envisioned and hoped. We have, I'm not going to name names. I know a lot of the board and a lot of the staff know the people, but you know, we've got several municipal employees that have now bought homes and are living there. We've got a couple of nonprofit staff members from local nonprofits that have bought or are building homes there. They're living there. We've got a couple of police officers. So, you know, the vision that we all had all the way back to 2015 now is really starting to come out of the ground. And it's not just a plan on a wall anymore. It's people really living there, and the people that we targeted, and the families and the year-round people that we targeted. And the 175 AMI here is particularly the sweet spot for that year-round family that is caught between making, you know, too much money to even be close to the 80%, but not enough to even get close to a market rate unit, especially in the last 18, 24 months with the spike in values and continued turnover of all the housing. So these residents are particularly important, and they're the ones that we all targeted in our outreach. So I would encourage the board to consider that favorably. We've already built 4, either completed or under construction with 4 of our 575% units. So we only have 2 left that we're building. The buyers of some of the lots in our Sandpiper 2 development have 2 left. And now we're focusing and cranking on our 80% AMI units, which are already subject to the waiver. I'd make with respect to Housing Nantucket's request. The larger issue we've continued to work on with the staff, as we mentioned. We've, since we had our discussion with your board in January, we've now embarked upon another phase of acceleration with our project, where the town's going to attain 2 more years of safe harbor and some additional diversity in the tiering of the AMI units in our rental project in collaboration with us, that's being funded through the town, through your efforts, and through the Affordable Housing Trust. And the building permits for those buildings are just being sought now. The first building there will be under construction in about a month. And by the end of this calendar year, we will petition DHCD with your staff for an additional 2 years of safe harbor. And that's a big step, obviously, in the bigger picture. So we would like to come back, hopefully with a consensus with the staff as relates to the fees. Tucker made a point about costs. A lot's changed in even the 8 months since we've had that initial meeting with you all. And we're cognizant of how you have to balance and weigh all this. And we're looking forward to a further discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Any thoughts from the board?
Just, I guess, a question for Tucker. Tucker, currently they're tiered, correct? Currently, like a full shy list is fully waived, and the next tier up. Would you explain that for the?
Sure. In the policy, the policy states that you may waive up to 100% of both fees where the unit is restricted at 80% AMI or less. You waive up to 75% of both fees where it's restricted between 81 and 100. and up to 50% of both fees where it's restricted between 101% and 150%. And it goes on further that in the case where all the units are in a project that are income restricted, you can waive up to 100% so long as 25% of the total is at that 80% minimum or greater. So Sachem's Path might be an example of that.
Yeah, so my thinking on it is if we do waive it, I think it should be in line with what we're doing now. I think it should be vetted by the finance department, and the sewer departments, they understand what the impact will be on their budgets. And we have to realize that any money we do to this is money that's coming away from somewhere else. And so I think that we have to be, understand what the implications of that are. It's great. We all want, I want to have housing and help do that, but we have to make sure that we're being responsible with it, and that there aren't any unforeseen consequences. We don't want to do this and have a bunch of people come in and go, well, I'm this, and you should have given it to me for these, and all those things that we. So I'd like to see, that sort of analysis in writing, so in something we can read and have it documented for the future before I would consider it. But I'm not against considering it. Just my comment on fees in general. I think there are some fees, we talk about it every year, we reset the fees. I think we could charge more for, I don't think the fees have to reflect what's done, but I think that in some cases, we don't have enough money at HCC. We don't have enough staff. We don't have enough people to do some of this. I think the fees could go up, and if we wanted to look at fees in general, I think they can be tiered for a public purpose. And so I think that's an analysis that I ask for every year. That's something that maybe we would be thinking about, because I think we're leaving a lot of potential income on the table. And if we were charging more in general on building fees, it would be easier to give some of this up for these types of things we need. But if we are, and I think that's a pass along for the most part. And that pass along isn't actually going to us now. That pass along is not going to island residents. Island residents are going to be needing to do this, which we're going to give a break on. So I think going forward, we should be thinking along those lines. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting question as to who the developer is in my mind too, for profit versus nonprofit on one hand. On the other hand, the end result is an affordable unit, which is probably, I'm not sure I would make the distinction, but it's an interesting question, certainly. I think that the 175% was a new concept at the Richmond Gray Point development. That's sort of the first place it appeared to meet that need above the covenant limit. I think our intention is to make the development of affordable housing as affordable to the person developing it, so they can pass along a good product at a discounted price to the eventual homeowner. I think as we talk about raising beyond 175%, I think this tiered approach, so that there's if we ever go above 175, but I think at the moment what's before us is 175, and I'm prepared to look at expanding the policy to that. And then I do want to understand what the cost is for the Richmond, what the ultimate cost is, and I need a little more information on that.
Thank you, Brooke. Dawn?
What I was thinking in listening to the policy again was that something consistent would be going to a 25% waiver on the sewer fees. And I would say, as we're talking about it, we might want to consider going up to 200% as long as they're restricted units in perpetuity, regardless of who the developer is. And in terms of Richmond, I was in support of going back to the fees when they originally proposed the development for the rental units. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. So I'm in agreement with things I've heard from Matt and Brooke. I mean, everybody really we need more information on the fiscal impacts and what does that look like. And I think kind of what I'm hearing is we're all in favor, need some more information. Is it going to be 50% or 100% or 25? I think if we see the numbers, we can probably come to some kind of decision. And this will be next week. We would decide on this.
I don't know. Let me confer with the town
Yeah.
manager about
I think
that.
there's a placeholder for next week in the agenda, but if you need more time for the data.
I don't know how long it's going to take to put the financial
Yeah.
in.
Well,
Back to
we have detailed financial information about the specific of the Richmond aspect in particular, and it would be relatively easy to do the financial analysis on the things that we know about. We can't obviously predict the things that we don't know in terms of what might come forward in the future, but that could be ready for next week.
Okay. Anything else, Matt? It's like you're contemplating something.
Yeah. Dinner.
Okay. Is that helpful, Tucker? Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks, David. Thanks, Ann. Okay. Any committee reports? Nope. Brooke, Don?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to report that the Affordable Housing Trust is working on requests for proposal drafts on several of the properties that we've acquired in the last couple of years, 12 and 12R Bartlett Road, 135, 137 Orange Street, and the 7 Amelia Drive. Tucker, did I miss one? No. Okay. So that those projects are headed into development stage. So we're really excited about that.
Thank you, Brooke. Don, anything? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call? Brooke?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Jason, aye. Thanks, everyone.